Welcome to another episode of Journey to Gold podcast. I'm here with Coach Ed Eyestone, just coming back from Paris, and also you had some athletes at U20, but we will start with Paris. So
Sounds good.
yeah, so you had quite a crew going to Paris.
We had a big group. We had 4 of my current athletes that I work with, and 5 if you count Rory. We still count Rory, even though he's from Canada.
Yep.
And it was just good to have a good group of them. It's funny because I had been, I went to Spain in January with my daughter, 2 of my daughters, and my wife, and then we had a little layover in Paris, and we took a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I just said, hope to recreate this photo in 6 months. This was before the marathon trials, before the track trials, and ultimately we did have 5 people. We didn't ever get around to recreating the photo, but at least we were all there in Paris, and it was a great experience, obviously.
That's amazing. So did you just have high hopes to get 1 or 2? Did you realize you were going to have that many?
Well, I mean, and we knew we had the potential for that, right? Okay. And certainly when I made that post, it was about a month and a half before the marathon trials, and at that point in time, Connor and Clayton had really good build, so I was hopeful. But as we all know, so many things can happen in the marathon. You don't ever, nothing's ever a given for sure. I really felt like on the right day they could come through and finish 1-2 and get a ticket punched for Paris, but there was no guarantees. And then on the track side, I knew certainly Kenneth Rooks was, I felt as well as he had run last year in the steeplechase and winning USA's, NCAA's and USA's last year. But then getting the Rory ad was awesome, and when he went and I think it was Valencia and ran a fast time. No, maybe it was Seville. He went and ran a fast time and punched his ticket for Canada. And then certainly James Corrigan was, I think, a surprise to everyone, myself included. He had, started the year as about a 8:40 mid steeplechaser and ended it as an 8:13 guy. So that's some nice improvement, and just the way he ran. At the Olympic trials, track trials, I was so focused on Kenneth. Obviously, I was watching him, and then to see James move up as well as he did over the last lap was what put me over the moon, obviously. And so to have those 5 guys, it was a little mini BYU reunion there, was very cool.
That is really cool. And when you went there, you did goal setting with each of the guys and planned it out. Did they exceed expectations?
Well, I think they had high, certainly Kenneth Rooks. Going in, I'd had a number of interviews, and people said, okay, well, of these 5 guys and then 4 that you're currently working with, who are the guys that have the best chance? And obviously, Kenneth Rooks on paper, since he made the World Championships last year, he was 10th at the World Championships last year. I felt like, he's got our best chance of a medal. Was he over 50% chance? No, he was not. But in fact, going into that final, he had the 15th fastest time of the 16 runners that were in that final. But those of us who know him and have followed him realized that he was, even though his PR was 8:15 going into that steeplechase final, with the way that he's been winning races has been strategic races, following, and then kicking really, really, really well the last lap or 2 laps. He's become a stronger runner over this last year so that he can hold it over 2 laps. And I think at USA's he closed in about 3:04 for 1200. And I felt like, no, he wasn't an 8:15 guy. He was definitely a sub 8:10 guy. And that can put you in the hunt if it's not just a world record attempt. And so that was our hope. And I think our goals for him certainly was to be in the hunt, top 6, hopefully. And then for our marathoners, again, if you looked at ranking going in, I think they were in the 60s plus, probably out of the 80 runners in there. Top 10 is a major accomplishment at the Olympic Games with the quality of runners. And of course, with guys like Connor and Clayton, that's not enough. They're really thinking it would be great to come home with a medal. So, so I think at the end of the day, they were happy, but not necessarily satisfied. At least our marathoners were. I think Kenny was. I think he was satisfied. Although there was that moment
Yep.
after it was all over, and it was just my wife and I back in our hotel room, I said, is it okay if I be just a little disappointed we didn't get the gold? And then she smacked me around and said, you shut up. We are very happy to get that silver. And we certainly were very happy in the dramatic fashion that it happened. Yeah, we were very excited.
Oh yeah, definitely. The dramatic fashion that, the dramatic fashion that he ran that in was just amazing. And I think he inspired not only the rest of the guys on your team, but probably the rest of Team USA, the way he ran that.
Well, thanks. And I think if we look back and just go the sequence of events, Grant Fisher really started the party rolling, right?
Yes,
with the distance, middle distance, and distance runners, scoring as well as he did in the 10,000. And then obviously the night before, when Cole Hocker in the 1500 and Yared came through at 1-3. It was very exciting. It's funny because I was sitting next to my wife during that race. She said, how's it going to play out? And I sound like a prophet because I said, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get Ingebrigtsen taking it out hard. We're going to get Kerr coming on strong at the end. Ingebrigtsen's going to lead so much of it, he's just going to be out of gas, and then Kerr's going to come on strong, and then he's going to drift out, and then Hawker's going to come right on through the inside. And so when it happened, she just looked at me and said, how do you do that? And I said, well, if you're, again, following the form chart, you kind of knew that was going to happen. I thought I was going to be mistaken, though, when Ingebrigtsen slammed the door on Cole right there at the beginning of the home stretch, and then the temptation is just too great to hold off, and it unfortunately cost him a medal. But it was great for Yared to scoop in there for third place. So that was fun. So I think the whole momentum is what we were talking about. Started by Grant, fed by Cole and Yared, and then when Kenny got on the track, I think anything was possible. I felt like the best chance for him to medal was if it went out fast, but not crazy fast, if he's controlled. And then as long as at some point in time there's a little bit of a breather in the middle or late portion to allow him to get back in the game, that was the best way for him. Because steeplechase is one of those events that if you play it wrong, if you go out too hard, you do not want to get in trouble. You do not want to be fatigued early on in the race. And we really felt like, if they're going out in 63s, then you maybe run 64 high or 65s, which may put you in the back of the pack. Don't be discouraged on that. Just stick to the plan, and but I was a little surprised that the Ethiopians just didn't keep the momentum going. But I think what happens sometimes is when you have three from one country there, nobody wants to be that guy to just take it out and be the sacrificial lamb, right? I mean, who wants to do that? But at some point in time, you get kind of tired, and then you realize, well, maybe I'd like to get a medal too. It lags, and then it lets Kenneth get in position to use his kick at the end.
And what I love about talking to you about all this is you're definitely not only a student but a teacher of the sport, and I love that. And you've seen enough of it that the guys really, they trust you when you talk about it, because you can bring the experience and you can bring all of it, and you've seen the ups and the downs, not only of teams and athletes in the sport, but what advice do you give to other coaches that are coming up? Because you seem to take everything in stride and you're calm about it. What advice do you give to other coaches that are going to be hopefully in this situation down the road?
Yeah. I mean, the nickname my athletes have for me is Easy E, and I realize that comes from a rapper, but I think it not because of my rapping abilities, but it's just I'm kind of unflustered, non-flappable sort of thing. I've seen a lot. I've been in a lot of great. Sometimes I feel like the Forrest Gump of running. Just the experiences I've been through, both as an athlete now as a coach. But I think running is hard enough in and of itself to not have to have the suffer a dictatorial sort of management. And I think that athletes need good directions. They need to, but I don't think they need to be micromanaged to an extent. And also, I think they need a cool, calm, level head to kind of be demonstrating how they should be. I think the more keyed up a coach gets, sometimes the more keyed up an athlete gets. So I try to keep it on an even keel. It doesn't mean that my heart's not thumping really hard and I get emotional as well, but I try not to let them see that side of me, other than to know that I do care And going into combat, you got to be prepared. You need to have a plan, and then you need to execute that plan the best that you can. You can let emotions. I mean, you should feel that intensity of a race. You want to be a little bit hyped, but you need to, especially in the middle distance events, they're long enough events that you can't be like the 100-meter guys where you're, jumping 10 feet off the ground right at the start. You need to kind of keep it cool, calm, and collected.
I like that. And the marathoners, Connor and Clayton, I really enjoyed working with them because they were very focused and they knew what they were going to do. Like, how much do you help them with, the planning of the fueling and the bottles and all that stuff? Because Connor came with this frozen balloon idea, which I thought was really great. Like, how much of that do you guys dive into those details?
Yeah, that's a lot of just old school stuff that I'd kind of taken, over the years at BYU. And I'm in a great situation for my pros because I've had, 25 years plus of D1 experience in all kinds of elements and whatnot. So the little things like the ice balloon to hold in your hand as you go to the starting line, or even carry with you, or even get on the course. Those are little minutia that's kind of old school, but it proves to help. At least if the athletes believe that it helps, it's going to help. Particularly in the case of Connor and Clayton and Kenneth now, when they've been through the BYU system for 4 or 5 years, and plus 2 years of their break when they're on their mission. They've picked up just some of the basic things that we do to, make racing cross country and 5,000, 10,000 on the track successful in places like Austin, Texas, where you have the elements that you're competing against as well as the competitors. So I think it's just a matter of them picking up things, and then they're adult men who do research on their own as well, and they'll come to me and think, hey, what do you think of this sauna, and how much should we be in there? And I said, well, you know what, we've got some time to try that. Let's see how we feel. And I'm not real, a fan within a week of the event. Let's make sure we don't do anything to screw us up. And then I think our overall arching kind of philosophy going into the marathons this last 8 months or whatever has been, let's get the starting line healthy. And I think the thing I'm most proud about isn't necessarily, I think the fact that we finished 8th and 9th at the Olympic Games, that's great. But they had to put together 3 really solid races in the span of about 6 months. Well, it's longer than that, I guess. But they had to put together good races, very good races, their best races in terms of time ever at Chicago. Then they had to follow that up 3+ months later at the trials, because their times were only good for the top 2 Americans. So then they had to duplicate that and finish 1-2 at the trials in Orlando, and then obviously they had to cycle back and then run well at the games. So the fact that they ran 3 really good races, top flight, top shelf races, it's hard to do that when you're a marathoner, to be that consistent, but to have both of them exhibit that sort of consistency, I think is a very good sign that our training is working.
I mean, it's definitely working, and now they're going to add a 4th to that with New York, right?
They are. And some people were saying, are these guys joined at the hip or what? Did they have to run it? But let's think about it. I mean, starting back in Chicago, they really were on the same trajectory. They had to be on the same trajectory as long as they continued winning or doing well, right? So the Chicago led to the trials, led to the games, and now if they're going to do another fall marathon, really New York's the one. And I think I like the thought of New York. It's another championship style. It's not going to be they're not, I don't think they're ready to run 2:02 right now, which if they went to a super fast one, they'd probably be needing to do. But I think they can be in a very good championship style race. I think they're both still very strong, and Connor and Clayton both feel like the hill work that they did is going to lead to some good results in New York, and I'm excited to see how they can bounce back and get their 4th one, hopefully 4th one in a row that they do very well at.
And that's exciting, and one of the things about going forward is the times and qualifications are just going to continue to get harder. So for Tokyo in 25, which I know some of our best marathoners don't do, but the time qualifying is going to be 2:06:30 for the men. But again, if you're top 5 at a major marathon, that is an automatic qualifying, so you don't have to run the 2:06:30. But do you see them going to try to run, something around 2:06:30 later or between now and the next games when I'm sure that will be the qualifying time or faster?
Yeah, before the next games for sure. Now the World Championships don't always have the same pull, obviously, that the Olympic Games have, but certainly before LA they are going to be in positions where they're going to need to post those times. But for at least 2024, we're going to New York, and probably not a PR type circumstances or course, but if they can, I think they're certainly capable of a top 5 finish, which would put them in the same category as running the 206.
Yeah, definitely. And going forward, Connor and maybe even Clayton both mentioned going after the American record in the marathon. What will they have to change in training, or what will you do to change that to go after an American record type performance, or do you think their trajectory is just on the way there with more time?
I think, consistency over time, as long as you're not past the peak age, and who knows what the peak age is these days, certainly mid-30s to late 30s. So I think as long as they can continue to consistently work without injury, and then the other facet obviously is choosing the right race, choosing a race that will be conducive to that. In their future, they will undoubtedly run on fast courses that could generate an American record. So we'll just kind of see how it goes, take it one marathon season at a time. But yeah, I think both of them will have chances to be on courses either domestically or internationally that would lend to running fast times, because that's one of the things that's one of the boxes you certainly want to check in your career, is just run as fast as you can on as fast a course as you can.
Definitely. And we've really struggled the last couple of years of getting the men to run faster. So I'm going to ask you, what do we need to do between now and LA 28 to get a few more men to make that qualifying, to hit those times, to get close to those times? What do we need to do? We need to recruit more men to move up from the 10 quicker?
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. We see the success on the track, so there's not a big push for Grant Fisher maybe to move up, although the allure of the financial incentive that's out there certainly, and I know the shoe companies would probably be happy to see them make that next step. I think the mistake that, and I'm not even saying this generation, but generations ago, multiple generations ago, on the men's side, maybe on the women's side to some extent, but certainly on the men's side, was they would often wait until their track career started kind of fizzling and then going, okay, now I'm going to make that step up. One doesn't necessarily need to wait until they're approaching 30 to make that step, and I think we'll see more and more people transitioning after NCAAs and moving on. And certainly the people that I've worked with, both Clayton and Connor, who were 1-2 at the Olympic trials, were guys who, Connor still enjoys running on the track and will enjoy that, and I have a component of that with everybody I work with. I'm working with some people now who has been a while since they've really run a lot on the track, but I still encourage the track component of it, because I think the faster you are on the track, regardless, still something good about biomechanically turning it over fast that just makes it that much easier, makes the marathon pace seem, 4:50 pace seems a lot easier when you've been running 4:20 pace, right? Yep. So anyway, I think it's just a matter of choosing the right races to go to. Rory showed that, going to a fast race in Spain, and he was training hard, and he had, Ryan Hall as his mentor, and I don't think a lot of people thought that he would necessarily be capable of running 2:08. And he got the job done and made it for Team Canada. So I think some of it is just making the sacrifice. Yep. The problem that we as Americans often have is when we don't run New York, Chicago, Boston, or any of the other domestic races, then our appearance money goes down, and then and we're kind of making a financial sacrifice to go and run one of these fast European races. Now, ultimately, they also should recognize that running a fast time, regardless of not getting a big appearance fee, is probably going to come back on the backside, and you're going to make some money off of that as well. So sometimes if we make all of our decisions based off of monetary, or if we actually analyze it, then actually it is the best decision that you could be making.
And that's a hard one. I mean, I had mentors in my career that said don't chase the money, but sometimes when you don't chase the money when you're fit, then you lose out and you never get those opportunities again. So I do understand the athletes not wanting to give up the appearance fees, but I'm with you on, I'm hoping in the next quad there can be some sort of incentive, whether that's, shoe companies writing it in there that, if you're in the top 3 or 5 that make this standard within this qualifying window, there's an extra bonus, or bigger time bonuses, knowing that they're giving up the appearance fees, or if we can get some kind of corporate sponsor to sponsor, or USATF, whatever it is. But I do think we need to look at the model and say, hey, what can we do to incentivize this? Because that was definitely an issue going into 24.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and I think we need to take a cold, hard look also at, we ran into the situation where we had 2 athletes who had decided and made the commitment and ran the race to run a fast time, to punch that ticket, to get an opening for Americans to run in the Olympics. And then in a way they kind of were, well, not kind of, they then had to go defend those spots. I mean, it was great for America because we were going to have at least 2 spots in the Olympics, but it wasn't necessarily great for them. So partly the way things are now, you're almost de-incentivized a little bit. I mean, you're hoping somebody else is going to go do it, and then the trials will work out. So and maybe if it goes back to you run a fast time, then you're going to be in that pool of guys who will have the chance to go to the Olympics. That certainly would get more people out trying to run fast races as well.
Exactly.
So those are tough choices and tough decisions because we know the ramifications of anybody who wants to bid for the
trials.
Wants to actually be able to say the first 3 guys across the line.
Yeah.
We love that situation as well, as athletes, as fans, as coaches to some extent, especially if you don't have an athlete with a qualifying time, because that's the drama of the sport. My first Olympics that I made, I was not a guy who would have had the time, and so it was great for me to be able to rise up and be a top 3 performer on that day and self-select. So, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. There are no easy answers. I do think people need to be rewarded for making the tough choice of going and running somewhere fast, and maybe that reward is just that they get a fast time and that will lead on to better things. I don't know.
No, I agree. In Japan, I think they only let people that had 2:11:30 or faster in, and they had a much smaller trials, but I mean, they still had 20 or 30 guys, I think, with the time. So, and again, we only would have had Clayton and Connor this time. Unfortunately, there definitely needs to be some introspection and definitely looking into it. And it depends what World Athletics does. Depends what they do, and if we can. And I am an optimist, saying we will be able to have a trials, and there are some people that are saying that things will change so much that we won't. But I'm staying optimistic that we will have a trials.
We love the trials. The trials is cool. I mean, I went through the trials myself, and it was a baptism by fire, and it's great. It's just, the reallocation of those marks is something, and maybe we find trials, places that are faster to allow for the time on the given day as well.
And it's also the men's and women's LDR committees who get to make those fun decisions. And those elections will be up again this year, so that'll be interesting. We're trying to get people to get more involved, especially the athletes, because if the athletes want to make decisions about 28, then they hopefully will get involved and help make those decisions. But moving forward, what's next for you? I know you have some new people joining you, not only the men, but some women, and you have your cross-country season coming up. So what's next for you here in the short term?
Okay, I just got off of 6 days of, my athletes call it the best week of the year, the best week of the year, which is our cross-country camp. And it's just because we have 0 responsibilities. We just go up to a cabin, we run, we eat, we play. And we bond as a team, so that was fun, a little exhausting for the coach, but everyone else had a great time. No one got injured off this one, which is great because we do a lot of activities like giant slip and slides and softball games and other things that could be hazardous, but we got through it in one piece, and I think the guys are fit, not too fit yet. We still have a 12-week build before the national meet. So that's kind of the number one thing. Obviously, right now we're here in New Haven, Connecticut, and I'm here to watch Cara D'Amato run the 20K tomorrow, and she's had a nice build thus far. She's getting ready for Chicago, and we're excited to have her training in Utah now and experiencing altitude, and you'll have to talk to her about her experience, but I think she's enjoyed some of that stuff. Snow hasn't fallen yet, so she's still enjoying things up in Park City. And yeah, I've got some other good young people that I'm working with as well, and some of whom are running Chicago, so we'll see how that all pans out. And so I think between my college gig over the next few months and the NCAA championships that that last Saturday before Thanksgiving, and Chicago, and then with Connor and Clayton bouncing back and running New York, it's going to be a busy fall, but one that we enjoyed, and one we're excited about, and one we're very optimistic about.
I mean, the synergy of your group right now is just off the charts at the moment.
You know, it's good. You know, success breeds success, and when and just like I think for the men's American distance corps, when Grant started off and followed up by Cole and Yared, and then Kenneth, and then I think our marathoners acquitted themselves very well, and then Grant came in again with another medal. So I think that helped, and the same thing happens on a national level. Same thing happens on a local club level or a university level. And so we're just trying to keep that good vibe going for as long as possible. And those of us who've been in the sport knows it goes like this. We've had up and down cycles. We're on the top of a really good cycle right now. We want to just keep that momentum going. But we just work hard, try to make good choices, and the rest takes care of itself.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, I appreciate you sitting down with us. I know you've been busy, and I know we're excited for the 20K, and I look forward to seeing you at different things across the fall.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
right,
we'll look forward to it, and go Cougs.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it.